Hey, from the homework, any questions you want me to go over from lesson 7? 8, sorry. That means you could have got it out by now. There are not many names online, but I'm glaring at you. His name rhymes with J and begins with... Okay. Any you want me to go over? So all went good? So here's the plan. Today I have 2 things. The lesson is going to be, okay, I'm going to give you a bunch of triangles, and you have to decide which method to use. In other words, they're not all going to be cosine law, they're not all going to be sine law, they're not all going to be SOHCAHTOA, they're not all be Pythagoras. I have a take-home quiz on the sine law. Okay. Then on Thursday, I'll be giving you a take-home quiz on the cosine law. Tuesday is review, as is Thursday. And then next week, Thursday, is your test. And then we go frolic off to spring break. All right? So no questions from the homework? Okay. Lesson 9. So, it says, now we have learned the 5 main tools of trigonometry. Let's list them. And then I'm going to tell you, when it says solve, how I do a mental checklist, Danielle, to decide how I'm going to do it. First, there's Pythagoras. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. You need 2 sides to solve for a third side, and you have to have a right angle. So the first question, Binder, that I ask before anything else is, hey, is there a right angle in my triangle or not? Right angle triangles, easier, more tools. Not, I got sine law and cos law, and that's it. Then we had the primary trig ratios. What was the dumb word acronym that we had to help us remember that sine was what over what, and cosine was what over what, and tangent was what over what? Oh, hello, come on. What was the dumb word acronym that we had to help us remember this? Huh? Let's write that out. SOHCAHTOA. And if you have one angle and one side, you can solve for another missing side. Or if you had 2 sides, you can solve for an angle. The third tool. Now, these first 2 here, only right angle triangles. The last 3 work for anything. Really? Sine law and cosine law work for SOHCAHTOA triangles? They do, but there's so much more work, we usually just fall back on SOHCAHTOA. They work. The third one is angle sum of triangles. What did the angle sum of triangles tell us? Every triangle added to what? Equals 180 degrees. You need 2 angles to solve for a third angle. Then we had a sine law, which said sine of big A over little a equals the sine of big B over little c, b equals the sine of big C over little. You know what? If you match pairs up and it's the sine of one angle over its side across from it equals the sine of another angle over its side across from it. You always need an angle and its opposite side. You need a pair. Then, Alex, you need one more angle to find a side. Oh, and by the way, if you have 2 angles, you have the third one anyways. And you need one side to find an angle. And the very last thing we learned, Sam, was the cosine law. a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine big A. What do you need? What did SAS stand for from our last unit? Okay, you need side angle side. If you have two sides and the angle between them, you can find another side. Or, what would AAA stand for? Sorry, that's wrong, Mr. Dueck. Or side, side, side. SSS, and you can find any angle. So it says the following chart helps illustrate the thinking. This is what I run through in my head. First thing I ask myself, Jordan, is that right there. Right angle or no? Yes? Okay. Can I go SOHCAHTOA or Pythagoras? This is the full breakdown, but most of you have done enough practice that you'll just kind of see it right away, Jeremiah, without actually having to think too hard. Your brain's already developed that one. Not. Find the angle on opposite side, or the way I've called it, is there a pair? Yes, sine law, no cos law. That's my strategy, Joe. Let's try some. It says, example 1. For each of the following, solve for the indicated side or angle. Use the appropriate method and solve. Okay. I know it says example 1 twice for some reason. Danielle, what does A want me to find? Okay, first thing I ask is, what is the first thing I ask? Right triangle or not? You see a little 90-degree symbol? Nope. Okay. It's going to be sine law or cosine law. How do I know which one? Right away, I start looking for pairs. Don't write this down. I'm going to gum up my diagram. But Danielle, I would say, do I know both of those? No. Then I would say, do I know both of those? No. Then I would say, do I know both of those? Careful. Yes. No, you don't. Yes, I do. No, you don't, Mr. Dueck. That's blank. Wait a minute. Why isn't it really blank? Matt, if I know 2, I know 3. In fact, probably even before I do anything else, I would add anything that I automatically know. How big is that angle? Do the math, please. What is 180 minus 66 minus 49? 65? Now do I have a pair? Sine law. Okay? Ready, Joe? It's going to be the sine of 65 over, Joe, what goes with the 65? Yep. Equals, what are they asking me to find, a side or an angle? What does it say? Read to me. Find what? No, look up. Find, look up. Find what? Okay, side or angle? Which one? Side. Which side? Top, left, or right side? Sorry, bottom, left, or right side? Let's put our x there, which means the x is going to go there, because it's a side. And Joe, here's the key. What angle goes with that one in my sine law? The 66 or the 49? No. Joe, look up. Okay, this is crucial. For the sine law, we're using this, we're using that, we're using that. Those go together, those go together, those go together. So I've already used 65 over sine of 65 over 10, because that's a pair. You said this is what I'm trying to find. What goes with it? This does. Yes? So what am I going to write right here? Not just 66, the whole thing. I'm not going to write this, Joe. What am I going to write, Shay? Sine of 60. This is the sine law. Right? Okay. By the way, how big is this angle here? 66. How big is this angle here? This is almost isosceles. This answer is going to be really close to 10 because it's not quite an isosceles. If it was 65 and 65, it would be isosceles, and these would be the same size. If I get an answer like 20, I screwed up somewhere. How do I solve this? Now what? Cross multiply. So I'm going to get x sine 65 equals 10 sine 66. Matt, how would I get the x by itself? More specific. Divide sine 65. So if I hear you, we're going to get x equals 10 sine 66 divided by sine 65, which is what? I'm going to guess like 10.1 or 9.9 or what? 10.08? 0.08 what? 10.07? So 10.08 is rounded off properly. Good. Joe, do you see how we figured that out, though? What our approach was? Right angle or no? No. So sine law or cosine law? Do I know a pair? Right there. Do you understand what I mean by a pair? An angle and the side across from it. Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Awesome. B. Alex, what do they want me to find? Okay, let's put an X right there. Right angle? Oh, great. What will be my best strategy here? Pythagoras. And because now we're bringing everything to the table, I'll write down the Pythagoras equation. I'll write down a squared plus b squared equals c squared. What number or variable is going to go right here, Alex? That's what I have to remember for Pythagoras. The hypotenuse goes by itself, and this is going to be x squared plus 12 squared. Have I got the x squared by itself? No, how then? Yeah, how do you know without saying minus? What's in front of the 12 squared? Subtract. Okay. I'll get x squared equals 13 squared, take away 12 squared. What does x squared end up being on your calculator? I think 25, if my math is right in my head. Is it? Oh, great. Final step. Alex, how do I get rid of a squared? Square root of 25 is 5. C. Taylor, what do we want me to find? Right angle? Ah, because then I could use SOHCAHTOA, which will be okay. Do I know a pair? Do I know both of these? Do I know both of these? Do I know both of these? Rats. Then I'm going to have to use the cosine law. And we said with the cosine law, always let the angle that you're interested in, call that A. What is the cosine law? Do you all have it on the previous page? Yeah, it's still there in front of you? Okay. This 8, is it going to be little a, little b, or little c? Well, you know what? Let's ask this. Here's big A. What's going to be little a? Because that's really the only one I have to get right. And then this can be B, and this can be C. So I think we're going to have this. 11 squared, yes, equals 8 squared plus 9 squared minus 2, 8, 9, cos big A. Now what did we do? We said, Matt, minus the first two, the squareds over. You're going to get 11 squared minus 8 squared minus 9 squared equals negative 2, 8, 9, cos A. Now, Alex, I want to go back to your earlier question, because how do I move these over? A lot of people would say, well, it's a minus, you're going to plus them. Except isn't this actually times, 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 times? So it's not a minus subtraction. It's actually negative 2, which means to move this over, because it's all multiplying, what's the opposite of multiplying? I'm going to get this. The cosine of A equals 11 squared minus 8 squared minus 9 squared, all divided by a negative 2, an 8, and a 9. Liam, how many numbers do I have on the top? Brackets! How many numbers do I have on the bottom? Brackets! Try typing this in. I'm going to freeze the screen so you can practice this on your calculator, because I find most of the glitches here with the cosine law are calculator glitches. And do you get cosine of A equals 0.16666666667? But I think it actually keeps going with 6's in my calculator rounded off. Yeah? Or no? If not, now is your chance to call me to see how to type this in yourself. Okay. Come here, unfreeze the screen. There we go. So I got Joe, I got cos A equals 0.1666 repeating. How do I find the angle now? Ah, this is when I'm going to go second function cosine. And folks, it's high time you learned where your calculators have an answer button, because they all do somewhere. For most of you, it's going to be around the equal sign or around the negative sign. That's where most calculators have an answer button. And you should get 80.4 degrees. Angle A equals 80.4 degrees. Okay. Last one, example D. Adam, what are they asking me to find here? Is there a right angle? Yes. Woohoo! Then we label, oh, because it's going to be SOHCAHTOA. I usually put a little hash mark or color in the angle that I'm interested in, and then I say to myself, self, this 9, opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse. Opposite. This 12, adjacent or hypotenuse. I'm going to leave the hypotenuse blank because I don't need it. OA. Which trig function is OA? Tan. What always goes next to the trig function? The angle. What's the angle this time? It's a variable. What letter are we using for the angle this time, Matt? X. Equals what over what, Adam? How do I find an angle? Eventually, but how do I find an angle? How do we go backwards? How do we find an angle here? What did we do to go from here to here? Joe, you're right, or Boston. Someone said it back there. Was it you? I thought it was Joe that said second function. No? My bad. I'll never assume you're right again. Folks, we need to memorize this to find an angle. Second function. So, if tangent equals 9 over 12, then Adam, on your calculator, you can go, on your calculator, you're going to go 9 divided by 12, second function, tangent button. On a good calculator, you can go second function, tangent, bracket, 9 divided by 12, close bracket. And I get 36.87 degrees. 36.87 degrees. Example 2. Sydney, what do you want me to find in example 2 here? Okay. Is there a right angle? Where? Is it labeled? I'm glad you did this. Is it labeled as a right angle? So how do you know it might not be 89 or 92 degrees, like really close but not bang on? We can't assume it's a right angle. Rats. If there was, this question would be a lot easier. Okay. Well, Sydney, pick an angle. Which one would you like to find first, P, Q, or R? R? Okay. So is there a right angle? No. You see I have side, side, side. I don't have a pair anywhere. It's cosine law. Which means since you said we want to find angle R, let's call that A. Which one of these sides is going to be little a then? The 15. Do you guys still have the cosine law on your previous page? So you can see it there? Okay, so it's going to be what squared equals what squared plus what squared minus 2 what cos A. Jordan, more specific. I want numbers now. Yes. Plus. Minus 2 times cosine big A. And if you put the 17 there and the 23 there, you get the same answer. Which is nice. Really, you got to get A in the right place. Now what, Jordan? What am I going to do with these? Not yet. It's going to be 15 squared minus 23 squared minus 17 squared equals negative 2 times 23 times 17 cos A. How will I move the negative 2, the 23, and the 17 over from this side? Well, what's happening right here between the cosine and this bracket? So how will I move them over? See how you figure it out without having to memorize it, right? Divide by negative 2, 23, and 17. This side as well. Divide by negative 2, 23, and 17. Here they cancel, which was the whole point. Joe, try this on your calculator. Cosine of A. And again, people, bracket, 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 bracket. No cosine yet. You're just going to type in the whole left-hand side. And I get the cosine of A equals 0.7583120205, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, no, yeah. I'll write down cos A equals 0.758. That's not angle A, that's the cosine of A. Hey, Joe, what do I do now to get the angle? Still trying to figure what? Okay, type it in. We'll wait. Got it right? Okay, now look up. Now what? That's the cosine. How do I find the angle A? Because that's what I really want to find. Yes, good. Second function cosine of that answer. And I get 40.68. And, you know, I'll carry a few extra decimals here because I'm going to be using this to find other stuff, I think. 40.68. Oh, let's be careful. What letter was A originally called in my triangle? Okay. Angle P. Angle R, right? Angle R equals 40.68 degrees. Jeremiah, did we just figure out how big angle R is?
Okay.
Then if we were clever, we would also go 40.68 degrees. You know why I did that? Because we're not done. There's one angle. It said find all the angles. Now, I could start over, Shania, with the cosine law. I could say, by the way, Shania, what do you want to find next? Angle P or angle Q? Doesn't matter. Pick. I could call this A and walk through all this again, but stop. There's a shortcut. Do I know this angle now? I have a pair. See it? I can use the sine law. I can say the sine of 40.68, angle A, divided by what's across from it, 15, equals, which angle did you want to find, Shania? The sine of Q divided by what's across from it. Which one goes with Q, Shania? 17. Because this is going to be cross multiply and a little quicker. You could, Shay, use the cosine law. In fact, if you have extra time on the test to check your answer, do both. Do it with the cosine law. See if you get the same angle. Then you probably know you're right. But this one was a bit nicer. What do we do first, Shay? What do I do now? Darn right I cross multiply. I'll get 17 sine 40.68 equals 15 sine Q. Now what? Yeah, you. Yeah, not just don't you like or whatever. I'll tell you exactly for sure, absolutely you do. We're going to get the sine by itself. We've got to divide by 15. We're going to go like this. Divide by 15. Divide by 15. The reason is, here the 15's cancel. And I get this. Sine Q equals 17 times the sine of 40.68 divided by 15. And Joe, you know what I'm going to do again? Just like we did over here, I'm going to change this into a decimal by going to my calculator, and then when I'm done, second function sine to find the angle. 17 sine, previous answer, because that's 40.684385, might be more accurate, close bracket, divided by 15. I get 0.7388. So I get sine Q equals 0.7388. I think that's what I said. Yep. That's the sine of Q. How do I find angle Q, Shania? Second function. Angle Q is going to be second function sine of this answer. And I get 47.63 degrees. Binder, did we just find angle Q? Well, let's label that. Yoink. 47.63 degrees. We're still not done. By the way, I like this question. I like this question. I like this question. This is a nice question. Why would I say that, Joe? Do you hear me say it's going to be on the test, or are you just kind of the student that notices these things? You're a good student and you pick up on what teachers emphasize? Yeah. Hey, Joe, how big? How big? How big? How can I figure out how big angle P is? And this is the easiest one to figure out. Jordan, angle sum of triangles. So can you go 180 minus 47.63 minus 40.68, and what do you get? Let's see. Come on. Minus 40.68. I get, Sydney. It was close to 90 degrees, but was it exactly 90 degrees? So we couldn't use SOHCAHTOA. Very close, though. 91.69 degrees. So I'm going to give you a question on your test where I give you all three sides. It won't be a right angle, and I say, knock yourselves out, find all three angles. You have to do the cosine law at least once, and then you can use the sine law and angle sum of triangles for your last two. Skip example 3. Your homework. Take-home quiz. And number 1, all. Really? Yeah. Yeah, 2. A. 5. Sure, try 6. Okay. If you have the cosine law homework done, lesson 8, please hand it in.